Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining the Waffles and Wives podcast. Again, this is Alicia Miles, and today's guest, and we have a really, really good topic. I like talking about this because it's not something that we oftentimes get to discuss because we think it's a personal matter, when in fact we realize that a lot of people really probably aren't doing it right. So
Right.
today I have Miss Latonya Peterson with me today. And our topic is securing the bag together and what that looks like for us as married couples and we can probably touch on this, Latanya, for anybody that, they might be dating and they need to figure out the whole money thing before they get married. Right.
Exactly. 100%.
Absolutely. All right. So tell us a little bit about what you and your husband are doing, because I think that will actually lead us to talking about how you're securing the bag together. Let's talk about that.
Okay, well, my husband is retired military. He's retired Navy. I teach full-time at AIU. I also adjunct at several schools. We have a business together. I am CEO of that business. It's MP Studios, where we write books. My husband has screenplays. He does a lot. We do a lot with it. We do a lot of charity work. So our business is MP Studios together. That
Okay.
is what we have together. So, with that, he has his retirement, my job, and then our business, which is, is very diverse.
Y'all are
So
busy.
yes, and we are very busy, and we do have two kids. My oldest is he just finished officer school. He was in Columbus.
Okay.
And I have Braylon, who's 11. So I'm
Hmm.
still raising a little one. So,
Yes.
it is a lot with him. And he's in private school. So,
Okay.
we're trying to, kind of help him figure things out because it's way different from public school.
Oh, definitely.
It is it's a lot being married, trying to secure the bag, and we are doing a lot, which I never, it's like I love it. It is very busy, but I've always been busy. So
Okay.
I make sure I get a little rest, but both of us are kind of like hustlers and we're just
Yes.
always busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
writes he writes all the time because he's
Okay.
retired, but I still have
Okay.
to work. So,
Okay.
and that's what he does, write, publish books and do other things. So, but
Okay.
it's been a joy.
Good, 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 good. I wanted to touch on something that you said, and that was, being a hustler, because I think there's always one in the relationship that is a hustler. If you're lucky to get both of y'all that are hustlers, that's
Yeah,
amazing. But
right.
there's always one who's a hustler. And in my marriage, that was me. I'm like, I if I can do it, if I can get my hands on it, I'm gonna make it
Exactly.
happen and I'm gonna keep
There's
moving. And
nothing wrong with that.
because that's honestly what ended up happening when I started to do the Waffles and Wives podcast. It wasn't something that I set out to do. It was just like, oh, I got an opportunity to
Right.
do this. And I didn't even look at it at the beginning as being something I could make money doing. It was just something that was going to add a little bit extra to my life and, being able to do the things that I love. So I totally get it. There's always somebody who's got to get to it, got to hustle. So
Yes,
I
and see,
totally
both
get
of
it.
us are like that. Both of us
Yeah.
are the same way.
Good.
And I think us meeting, we kind of realize that when dating, we kind of realize we're a lot different, but we're a
A
lot the
lot
same too.
common.
So,
Yes.
yeah, we got
Yeah.
a lot in common. So yeah, it's a lot, but both of us enjoy doing it. And I think it helps because both of us kind of see things the same way. We like staying busy, like trying to do whatever we can to
Right.
stay on top.
And I think that's very important. If you can find a spouse that has either the like mind, same like mind that you have, but
Right.
even more than that, if they don't, they just support what you do.
Exactly. That
It goes
support is
along. Yes,
everything.
just being
Yeah.
a supportive spouse. If you might not like what I do, you can hate it. Like, I to this day, I don't know if my husband likes me doing this podcast or not. But he's
Right.
like, but he'll ask me, "You recording tonight? You gotta." I mean, he will ask
Yes,
you
and
what's
that
going
support
on.
means everything
It
in a marriage. It
is.
does.
It is.
It
It's
really
very
does.
important. So talk to me about this though. You guys now, when I met you all, we were both employees at Troy.
Right.
And I don't remember your husband writing at that time or you writing at that time. So
Mhm.
how and when did that whole passion come about? Did y'all get there at the same time or did he was like, I want to write a book? Like, and he does a
Right, right.
specialty type series of
Right,
books. So
right.
how did y'all get to the point where it's like, okay, let's figure out what this looks like for us? How did y'all get there?
Actually, he always wrote books, and
Okay.
my aunt, I have an aunt in Atlanta, and we were dating. She was like, "I think I've read something by him," and we were
Oh,
dating then. I really didn't know a lot about the books I know he
okay.
wrote, and she was like, "I think I read something about him," and then I looked. I was like, "Do you write books?" And he was like, "Yeah, I told you that." So he has been writing, and his
Hmm.
the book about his life tracks of my tears. I think that was published
Oh, okay.
2012. So we
Hmm.
were married like a year after that. But he has
Okay.
been writing, and I
Okay.
just started last year. I always told Braylon we would go to
Mhm.
the library, and I
Mhm.
was like, Braylon, one day I'm going to write a book. I was saying this forever, and Braylon was like, Mom, are you ever going to write a book? So,
Yeah.
and me and my husband, we sat down. He had me on a writer's boot camp because it's so different.
Okay.
I teach criminal justice online, and I am an expert in criminal justice. I teach management to anything academia is fine. But
Yeah.
honey, writing a children's book, it was just something
Totally different.
different.
Yeah.
So I was in a boot camp, and he made sure I scheduled certain times that I wrote, and and it came to be fun to me. It
Okay.
was really fun. It was a lot of work, but it
Right.
was really fun. And then we just started writing. We had different
Mhm.
topics in the book, and both of us, he would write his part, I would write my part, and then that's when we did
Mhm.
children's books, and they were just really inspired by Braylon.
Oh,
So we
good.
did those, and he's still writing other stuff, but it's me. I'm sticking to the children's books because I can't do
Okay.
anything
Okay.
else.
All
So
right.
yeah,
Good.
but
Cause
it's
I
fun.
cause I noticed that now the first book that I saw by you were the Braylon and the Bear. Braylon the
Right.
Bear. Braylon the
Right.
Bear. And so was that your first series of books that you wrote, or had you wrote anything prior to that?
That it was my first series.
That's
That was my
first?
first
Okay.
time ever writing. That first book came out last year. So I
Okay.
have been writing, taking time. I actually have to write today. I think I have it scheduled for us to try to publish another. So
Okay.
I
All
have
right.
to write sometimes today. I try to,
Okay.
schedule
So
it
you have
in.
to factor in time to do it. It's not something that you
Yes.
just okay. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So tell me like when you think about securing the bag, I want to think like long term. Did you guys set out and say when you started is it MP
MP
Enterprises?
Studios.
Okay,
MP
MP
Studios.
Studios. When you guys set out to do that, was it something that y'all had a long-term plan for, or was like, it clicked
No,
that
actually,
since
we
okay.
started with, and it's MP Studios and Omega Man Publishing. We started with Omega Man Publishing.
Okay.
He was actually signed to a publishing company, but he noticed, and and a lot of people notice, some people don't, but when you're with a publishing company, you don't get all of your funds. You may get 10, 20%. But
Oh,
if you
okay.
have your own, you get, all the funds. So after that book in 2012, we established a Mega Man Publishing, and I was
Okay.
CEO of that. So that's when he started publishing his books. But we
Okay.
started MP Studios because he would write. He already had stuff, but he would write like TV shows. He would just write
Oh,
stuff,
okay.
and
Okay.
he has like a whole catalog of stuff. He's actually ghostwritten for people too. So he
Okay.
was like, you know what? And I think we talked to his brother because his brother is good with the LLCs. He was like, since you all are doing that, you need to make it a MP Studios too. So it's all together
Okay.
in one LLC, and
Makes
that's
sense.
really how
Makes
we got
sense.
started with it.
That makes a lot of sense because then you're like combining all of the resources
Combined,
that you offer in that way, no
right?
matter what it is, it's still within the realm of the business, the scope of the
Right.
business. So I think that was a really smart idea. Um, so let's talk about it. When we think about securing the bag, of course, we think that automatically means money and how we make it and how we
Right.
spend it and all of that. But knowing that you guys have so many streams of income and probably a lot of expenses, especially with the children, and you got a child in college, a child in private school. So I
Right.
know that there are probably definitely some expenses. But how do you guys manage your funds? Do you have one pot? All of our income comes in this one pot, and we pay our expenses, and anything after that is ours? Or do y'all have separate, like, okay, Mr. Peterson handles this, Mrs. Peterson handles this, and then we have like a combined? Like, how do you guys
Right.
do it? What works for y'all?
We have a combined income. It's
Okay.
combined, and that's where bills come from. That's
Hmm.
where if we want leisure time, like going to the beach, all of that comes from
Okay.
that big pile. We do have a savings that we
Okay.
hardly ever touch unless we need to, because
Yeah.
way the economy is, it's just not exciting.
Exactly.
Sometimes we have
Exactly.
to, and then we have to put it back in there. But we do everything together. And we
Okay.
actually talked about that during counseling,
Okay.
marriage counseling. So we knew that, okay, this is going to work for us. We need to make sure we do everything together. So once we left and finished counseling, we
Hmm.
already knew exactly, how it was going to look financially for us, and how would we
Okay.
go forward with, money and everything.
Okay. Now, even though everything is combined and we have this one account, do y'all have any discord about how it's supposed to be spent, or who's going to do what with it? Like, how do
No,
y'all?
no, we
Okay.
don't. Because
Okay.
actually, with the bills out of the money, he does all the bills. I don't have time. He does the
Yeah.
bills. I sometimes I would do the insurance and little
Okay.
things like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he has the pay where it's automatically deducted, which is easy
Yeah.
because back in the day, I know my parents, they used to send bills, write checks, and send stuff. We didn't have the
Yeah.
electronic
Yeah.
idea, so it's easier to do it that way.
Yeah.
But everything with us is all together.
Yeah. And we didn't start out like that. We were actually we everything was separate. Like, he had a separate account. I had a separate account. We never merged anything, at least for the first, I would say, 7 years, or at least
Mhm.
5. I would say at least 5, anywhere between 5 to 7 years. We never merged anything.
Yeah.
And it was so hard.
Right.
And this is why I always tell people, if you have an opportunity to build from the very beginning
Mhm.
a good financial foundation for your family, the best thing to do is combine everything. Because when you
Yes.
think about it, that's what marriage is. We're not just combining households, we're not just combining ourselves, and we got to combine our money, we got to combine our minds, we got to
Exactly.
combine everything. And
That is so true.
yes. And
Yes.
so that was a mistake that we made. And I promise you that now that we know what that looks like and how to actually put it all together, it works so much better.
It really
It
does.
works so much better, and
Just
it's
knowing it's all
amazing.
together and everything's being taken care of,
Yes.
both of them
Yeah.
together, it
Yeah.
works.
And I'm like, I handle all the bills. So I'll make sure everything is paid. My husband's just like, I got paid today, whatever. Make sure this
Right.
gets paid. And so, yeah, I'll usually handle all the paperwork that
Mhm.
he calls it. That's the paperwork. So I'll
Right.
usually handle all that. So when you think about, we hear a lot about, in being independent in marriage. Like, there is a certain aspect of ourselves that we need to keep.
Right.
But there's also a thought in my mind that you need to share a lot of things with your spouse, not just the finances, but your ups and downs, your good days, your bad days. Um, and I've always wondered, now that I've been talking and doing the podcast, because I'm just trying to find different ways to make connections with my husband as we get older. From the
Right.
time you guys got married, and let's take Braylon out of the picture for a minute. From the time that you guys got married and the time that you are together now, have you seen the connection grow through different experiences, or are you guys intentionally thinking about, okay, I want to make this moment, or I want to have these experiences with my spouse?
Well, actually, it took a lot of time. I got married late. I was 34, 35. I
Mm-hmm.
was independent until then. I
Oh,
would
yeah.
date people, but I have never been married. So it was
Mm-hmm.
hard for me to let go of that independence. Very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still independent. I go back sometimes. You have to
Sorry.
straighten me out. I go back sometimes, but I
Right.
think counseling really helped us. But as we matured and over the years, it just got better and better. It was like I started sharing. I started being, okay,
Okay.
I know I got to be submissive. He's the man. They say, the
Yeah.
Lord, the husband,
Yeah.
wife, and everything else. So I was like, let me put the religion, let me put the church in it. I know what my pastor told me. I know what the Bible says, but it was
Right.
just really hard for me in the beginning. But now it is, it's like clockwork. It comes natural to us.
Right. Right.
Married.
Right.
We'll
Right.
be married 14 years next year. So
Okay, wonderful. Yay. So I agree. I think it's something that you have to work at. I wouldn't, we were probably we were the same age when we got married. He's only like a few months older than me. We got married probably around 26, 27 is when we
wow,
got married, and we were pushing 17 years. Well,
that is
we
awesome.
have been married for 17 years. And I've just always wondered, when we talk about making those types of connections and being available, um, even though we've been together for a long time, I have to agree with you that if you're an independent person, that hustler, if you're an independent person, it is usually hard to say, okay, I got to include somebody else in my
Right.
circle.
It's very hard.
But I think that's the joy of being married, is that you can actually find somebody, or you're with somebody that you can actually do it with now. Um, so talk to me about, when we think, I've always thought that this for better or for worse and for richer for poor, and we're sticking with for richer for poor right now. But have you always thought that for richer for poor was only about money when you said your vows?
I knew it was more than that. I knew it was, richer for poor, just the mindset of, if, and I'm not going to throw illness or anything in it, but if something happens out in our household, someone gets sick, or just say our marriage or our mindset has to be richer than
Mm-hmm.
poor. A lot of
Yes.
times I think about just actions and not just money, because it's so different now.
Yes.
And I
Mm-hmm.
would tell anybody, it's really not all about money. You can have all the money in the world, but can be the saddest person in the world.
Yes,
So it's,
absolutely.
I really don't think it's all about money when you say rich or poor.
Yeah, and it was a conversation that I had with another wife, because I've always felt like there is this idea of a rich mindset versus a poor mindset, and it
Right.
has absolutely nothing to do with money. That
Hmm.
it's about, like you said, where you are at that particular moment or that particular month. Like I could be, really gung ho and, want to do things. I could be positive, and then your spouse at that moment could be very pessimistic. They don't want to do
Right.
anything you want to do. They don't want to agree
Right.
with anything you want to do. And I feel like that contributes to the imbalance that a lot of us have, is because we don't realize that, hey, everybody's not going to agree with us, or not. That includes your spouse. That includes your spouse. You're not
Exactly.
always going to be on the same page.
That
But
is
how do you guys navigate what it looks like when you're not on the same page? Like, what if, Mansell didn't agree with you on something, and you were like, I'm gonna do it anyway. You know how we do, I know how this go.
right. And
So
I'm
how do you
independent,
guys
I would
like
say that,
come
but
to,
I
yeah.
do love his support. But a lot of times he's military. If you know, they are so different. If he says what he says, he mean it. And a lot of times, if it's 100%, 99% of the time he's supporting me. But that one
Yeah.
percent, he is standing on it. And when I know he's standing on it, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I cannot do this because he's serious. He always
Yeah.
supports me with
Yeah.
everything. If he's against it, it is a reason, but I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. But now,
Right.
years ago, when we first got married, we were
Right.
arguing, no, I'm gonna do this, and this. But as the years came, and I know, and you have to know the person too.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
I was
point.
like, I know
You
how he
do.
is and everything. I was like, okay, he's not gonna agree with it. I threw it out there. Let me do it another way.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree. I
Yeah.
totally agree, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, you did what? I'll give you an example. And this actually kind of combines with like the money aspect of things. My husband had been wanting a boat for a really long time, because he loves fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And he had been wanting a boat for a really long time. And somehow or another, we were able to manage where he could get one.
Mm-hmm.
And I had left it alone. I just noticed he didn't have a boat. I'm like, oh, I thought he was gonna get a boat. Maybe he changed his mind, which I was totally fine with, because I'm like, that's a huge
Right,
responsibility, right?
right.
So Next thing I know, I slipped up and I asked him. I said, "So what happened to your boat?"
Right.
He had a boat within a week, and I
Oh,
guess it was because it was like confirmation for him that I was okay with
with
him getting a boat.
getting it right.
And so, yeah, he was kind of backing off because I had really been like, I don't think he should do this. Like, it's his responsibility. We don't have the space for it. And I think he kind of backed off for a while. And then finally, when I brought it up again, he was like, "Oh, she's okay with me getting a boat."
Right.
And I
Right.
say
They
that
love that
because
support too. Right.
that's what I was about to say. I think, we do have, even though we don't like it, if there's something that our spouse desires and they're really adamant about it and it really is not going to do anything detrimental to our
Right.
marriage, then at some point you have to say, okay, this is not a battle that I want to fight, right?
Right.
Like, I'll just
Exactly.
go get your boat. That's just go get your boat.
Exactly. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I think that's really
Exactly.
good. So tell me about now that you guys have the studio and I want to talk about now how you balance the time.
Ooh,
Because if you're
wow.
teaching and he's writing and you're writing and he's writing and
Mhm.
how do you guys find? And then there's Braylon and then there's
Yeah.
the oldest child, which he probably doesn't need as much anymore. But then you have
Right.
family.
Mhm.
You have a very supportive family.
Yeah.
Where do you find the time for it's just you guys? That it's not
Most of the time, since I work from home and
okay.
he's retired, most of the time, like yesterday, we went to lunch. We'll
Okay.
do lunch sometimes, but most of the time we go out of time. It's always with Braylon. So we don't have
Yeah.
a lot of time now, says, but we do make the time. If most of the time it's on a weekday, we do
Mhm.
things. And he told me, I think this was last week. Okay, I know you got this, this, and this, but today we going to lunch. And
Okay,
when he
good.
said it like that, I was like, okay, let me finish this, clear
Yeah.
my schedule, do this and this. He said what he want, let's do it, because he never asked for a lot. He never asked. It's
Right.
usually me, but he never asked for a lot. But most of the time, we'll make it do something during a weekday. And
Okay.
I do work, I do teach, but he a lot of the things he's been writing for so many years to where
Okay.
things he's written 5 or 6 years ago is just being published.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, he just
Okay.
writes. He just writes so much, but he does take time. He does rest, but he does a lot of other things too. But
Okay.
we just try to get it in most of the time during weekdays, but
Yeah.
we try to get it in and just
Good.
go from there.
Good. I'm always concerned when we say that we're securing a bag that there's oftentimes, pockets of time that we're not spending with each other. Like we're
Exactly.
so focused on trying to financially make sure that we're stable that we tend to forget you know,
Each
the cusp
other.
of why we're together. Yeah, we
Exactly.
forget, to spend time together. But I
Hmm.
think it's also important that you guys are actually doing something you both like to do. And it's just,
Exactly.
in the same realm, it's the same field.
Right.
Do you guys have anything other things planned that you want to do? Like have you there's like something on the back burner that you guys have like said we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, or do you just kind of take it day by day?
We take it day by day,
Okay.
whenever opportunities arise, we just take it day by day and, and do whatever we can. Most things we get opportunities and we evaluate it. Okay, let's do it. Most of the thing, if it's an opportunity, we're doing it.
Okay.
If it's an opportunity for anything, especially with books or studios, we're doing it. We make the time, but we just evaluate and go from there. It's usually just a day by day thing. And I told him, you never know when you will get that break or if this person will come along. So you have to be ready, you
Right.
have to be ready for it.
Right, I totally agree. And then I wanted to kind of get into, I want to explore a little bit more about, how we actually get to a point in marriages where we are financially stable and not thinking about, living from paycheck to paycheck. Like, I feel like there should be cushion
Mhm.
so that if something should happen, like you mentioned, you guys have a savings, so do we. But being able to have that cushion and preparing for the worst is
Right.
really, trying to figure out, okay, if my spouse should for some reason not be able to work, are
Mm,
we in a financial space where we're able to support each other? And so
exactly.
And I think that's really important. I think it's a conversation that we don't have until it actually happens.
Hmm.
Until my spouse can't work. I'm like, okay, what do we do now? What's next? So I know that when you talked about going through marriage counseling, was the financial piece talked about a lot prior to getting married, or did you guys just kind of say, okay, we need to make sure we do X, Y, and Z over the next few years? Like, how do you guys enter that conversation?
We talked about it during marriage counseling, but when we were dating, since shoot, both of us were older,
Okay, yeah,
talked
yeah,
about it during dating, because we
yeah. Okay,
actually bought our house when we were engaged.
okay,
We were
yeah,
not married
we
yet,
did
but we
too.
knew, okay, we can't be staying, separate places. I know we're not married, and I know the biblical part. Okay, you need to be married. I'm like, if we got opportunity, let's
Right,
get this house. Let's go
right.
ahead and do what we got to do. Make sure our credit is correct and get this house. So we end up buying a house, and we were trying to put together things before marriage. But yeah,
Okay,
before marriage and marriage counseling really helped us.
okay, good.
I was still at the point where I was just independent. I knew that, okay, I'm still gonna be independent. I want my own bank account. You pay this, this, and this. And once I went through marriage counseling, I was like, you know what? I don't think we should do it like that. We need to combine
Right,
everything just to do it the right way. And it's just
right,
so much positivity in doing it to me. It's not for everybody. And
right,
I
right, right,
understand
right.
if everybody can't do it, but it was good for us.
Yeah, I think we only had one session and we were supposed to have more.
Right.
But something ended up happening when we weren't able to get our other dates in. So we missed out on a lot of tools that probably would have helped us make better decisions the early part
Right.
of our
Right.
marriage. But I'm really fortunate that we decided that, hey, we got to figure this thing out
Mhm.
because you're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere, but neither one of us
Exactly.
need to be miserable either. So we
Exactly.
just had to figure out how to make the finances work and things of that nature.
Mhm.
Um, I wanted to kind of touch on this and then we'll, try to try to close down a little bit, but I wanted to touch on, the mindset thing again, the rich versus poor mindset, and how a lot of people don't recognize that when you have a spouse who's always against you, that you're not operating as a team.
Right.
So when you think about your marriage and how you and your husband communicate, how
Mhm.
you bounce ideas off of each other, how you support each other. What would you say, well, what would be the best advice you can give a couple who find themselves, there's friction that they're fighting against each other and not operating as a team?
Yeah, I would say mindset has a lot to do with it, but I would say just talk to each other. You know what each other like, you know what each other feel. Just talk about it and come to an equal balance because I've learned that you can't just say, "Oh, I don't want you doing this," or he can't say, "I don't want you doing that."
Mhm.
It has to be
Mhm.
a point where you're getting together to resolve the problem, and you have to do
Mhm.
this without a pastor or counselor because you're married.
Mhm.
Have to
Mhm.
make your relationship work. But
Mhm.
and we have been there where it's like, okay, we're fussing about this and this was early on, but we got to the point where our mindset was similar, and
Oh
this was
yeah.
over the years. It took a while, but it was
Yeah.
similar. We know what we want. Okay, we would bounce
Mhm.
off ideas. Maybe my idea may not be your idea, but we would come to a middle ground. And once
Right.
we came to a middle ground, that helped. So I would just advise, any couple, engaged or married, make sure you talk to each other, make sure you communicate, and just go from
Yeah.
there. And I know with communication, I'm not real big on elaborate communication. I've
Oh.
always been like closed in. So a lot of stuff he'll have to drag out of me, which I'm
Yeah.
getting better. I've gotten better over the years. But,
Yeah.
and I would say, please just communicate. It's easy
Right.
to just communicate, just talk it out. And I was at the point where I learned this in marriage counseling. If you can't talk it out, write it out. And I never knew that till my pastor was like, okay, you can't say it. Sometimes your communication skills may not be the best. And he used to tell
Mhm.
us, write out what you feel, write out, what's going on. He said, because sometimes that is better than you're talking about it. So I did
Right.
start doing that, but it got better with communication over the years. But you
Yeah.
really have to be there and listen to them and date. If you have to date, which we dated, I think, a year and a half, which is hardly no time. But we dated, we just learned so much about each other dating. And I would say that, if you want to get married and not date, I'm not against it because people feel how they want, but date,
Yeah.
know that person, know what you want, know what they want, and that helps out a lot too.
Yeah,
So
I taught everything you said was definitely on point because it takes work. It's not something that you can just go in one day and it's going to be that way all the time. Like marriage is
right.
just not that thing.
It's not.
Because you're dealing with another human being and
Mhm.
they have ups and downs, all of the above, but being able to
Right.
actually communicate and talk about it. I've always said in all the podcasts that we've done so far that communication was really hard for me for all the reasons that you mentioned,
Right.
because I want what I want when I want it and I could
Exactly.
care less about how you feel
Exactly.
about it. Like that's literally how, but it was one thing that I've learned about us is that my husband has been very
Mhm.
patient because I am the one that's like, oh, we need to do this, we gotta do this, I want to have this.
Right.
And he made a point to me one time. He was like, I feel like, and it hurt. When he said this, it hurt.
Mhm.
He said, I feel like you're never satisfied. And I was like, explain. What do you
Right.
mean? He was like, it's like you said earlier, you're always wanting to do something. You're always doing something different. Are you ever satisfied? And I had to sit back and think about it. Like am I really satisfied with my life, with the things that I'm doing? And at the time, it was a big no. And so I
Mhm.
was trying to always find things to feel instead of just going to my husband and having a conversation and saying, "Hey, I really need X, Y, and Z. Can you support me with X, Y, and Z?" And so
Right.
I think that you hit it dead on the nail. You have to have communication and be able to
Mhm.
be willing to explore
Exactly.
different things with your spouse. So when we think about securing the bag, you guys have a business. I
Mhm.
had a business for a while, and it's a totally different dynamic when you're the entrepreneur and you're
Exactly.
having to navigate all the ins and outs of your business, everything that it entails. So, with you guys managing businesses and managing your careers, what would you say people need to pay attention to in marriage when you decide that you want to become an entrepreneur? Like, what are some things that people can expect if they want to venture into that area?
Being an entrepreneur, I think it's a passion, first of all.
Mm.
Whatever you want to do, it's got to be something that was embedded in you before you even started a business.
Okay, yeah,
Because I
right.
see a lot of people getting into business and getting out. You have to be real serious about it. And you have to know that it may take a while for you to gain
Mm-hmm.
income from it. It takes work. Sometimes it takes a lot of expenses. You hiring people to do certain stuff, or you
Mm-hmm.
again training on doing certain stuff. It's not easy, but you really have to just take the time to know this is what you want. And if it's something you're not really passionate about, I would say don't even start a business. Just keep working on it in whatever
Oh, good
aspect
point.
you can until you really know you want to do it. But it's really hard. And a lot of people think with being an entrepreneur, you get instant money, and it's not like that. It comes with a gratification. It's something you
Right.
want to do. Just like with my books, I do events. I go to schools. I'm a vendor for schools, and
Mm-hmm.
Manswell is actually a vendor in Atlanta now. So
Mm-hmm.
does speaking and everything else, but it's something we want to do to give back. We've both been passionate about always giving back to
Oh,
kids.
yeah.
Both of us had that in us when we dated, but you really just have to have the passion and just know it's not easy as people say it is.
Oh,
You
no.
a lot of times you're not even looking at it, you're on the outside where they're getting this and this. They're so successful that this it takes a lot of work. It
Takes a
really
lot of
does.
work.
Yes, it does.
Absolutely. It takes so much work. And I would say that that was probably one of the hardest things for me, which is why I've kind of wound down and taken a lot of things off my plate because it takes away time that
Mhm.
you would normally spend with your spouse, especially if they're not in the biz, they're not the entrepreneur, they're not helping support, the work that you have to do.
Right.
Not saying that they wouldn't, but when you become an entrepreneur, you really do become focused on what it is that needs to happen. And I feel like what happened very early on in our marriage was that I was spending so much time catering to other people's needs that I was neglecting and paying attention to what my husband needed. And
Exactly. And that
I was
happened.
adding on one thing after another. And it was like, I wanted to see feel some kind of way. He never said
Right,
it.
right.
He never said it. Never said it was a problem. Always supported me no matter what I did, even though he didn't understand it sometimes. He always supported me, but I recognized, okay, I'm not gonna get this time back. Like I've got to figure
Exactly.
out how to make this business work with my marriage, or one of them has to go. And the marriage
Exactly.
wasn't the one that had to go. So I
Exactly.
had to, you have to figure it out. So I think that it's really important that if you want to be an entrepreneur and understanding what all that looks like, how it could affect your marriage.
Exactly. That is
Um,
so
so this is a really good conversation.
it
I don't
really
want to
is.
end, but we are winding down, and I wanted to just start off by saying thank you for joining me. This has really been some good stuff, and just to hear from you. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to you,
I
that,
know it. I miss our Troy days though. God, I miss our days. It was like our own family. I miss that so
Oh,
much.
I do too. I miss it so much, but luckily we've all remained friends
Yes,
over the years, and
exactly.
so I'm really actually I did an episode with Tamara, so you have to watch that one. I think that one's coming up
Okay.
on Sunday. But while we want I wanted to you brought up something earlier about marrying later in life. And so I want you to as we end, I want you to talk to those ladies that desire to be married, but they feel like, they're too old, or nobody's gonna want them, or I have all these kids or whatnot, but they desire to be married. And I think there's such a thing. I think it's okay to want to be married. I hate when people try to discourage people from getting
Exactly.
married, because you and I both know it's such a good place.
It really is.
So can you talk to anyone that would like to actually um get into who would like to be married? What advice would you give them about preparing for their spouse?
Just have an open mind. Make sure that you get counsel and talk to somebody else, because as a person, we sometimes we feel we have all the answers. We don't have all the answers. There's a lot of stuff
Right.
we don't know, and it's easy, and it's nothing wrong with getting help with it. But I would
Mm-hmm.
advise dating, getting to know the person. We know this day and age is all about technology, but get to know the person, go out with them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing about me and my husband. We dated, we went out, we did
Mm-hmm.
things together before we
Mm-hmm.
got married. But date, do it the old fashioned way.
Yeah.
Just get to know the person, and just know at any age you can find that special someone. God can send you someone that you can date, and that's the person you can marry. And I
Yeah.
used to feel like all the time I was like, I'm so old, and then I want to have a baby. I was just so
Yeah.
old, and I see people
Yeah.
get married in their 20s, but then I look back at it as the years go, I was like, I would not have been ready to get married at
Right.
21 years old,
Right. Right.
and I'm
Right.
like,
Right.
God did it exactly the time
Oh,
I needed.
absolutely.
He did it, when I needed it. So I would just say that have an open mind, stay positive. It will happen. If it's something you desire and it's the Lord's will for your life, it will happen.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely. I
yeah.
totally agree. Well, I'm not gonna hold up too much of your time. I know we both have to get back to some important things, so I wanted to thank you so much for joining me. This has
You
been a
are
really, really good
welcome.
conversation. And I'm
And
hoping that I could probably touch back with you
okay.
on a couple of things, because you said a few things and I'm like, okay, I think I wanna go there with her.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'll touch back with you. But Latonya, thank you so much for joining me. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you. You have a great day
All
and
right, you
weekend.
too. Have a good one.
Bye.